Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to my early impressions of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, I know I'm like a week late. I wanted to make this video last week, but I was trying to play through the game and I just didn't have enough time to edit it. My bad. I still want to talk about the game though. So here we go. I'm going to have two main sections to this video, a non-spoiler section and a kind of spoiler section. The non-spoiler section will be using trailer and the pre-release footage that a bunch of companies got when they attended that thing, and they got like, you know, you'll see. And for the spoiler section, I will be using other people's gameplay of only the first kind of tutorial section. If you played the game, you know what I'm talking about. I would use my own footage, but I don't have a capture card. So I'll make sure to credit whatever footage I use in the description, check them out. This whole early impression video encompasses about like 6.5 hours of gameplay. It took me a while to beat like that first section, but I really took my time with this. I was just really excited to I just looked at everything. I went everywhere. But at this point, I've now played like 15 hours. I won't really talk about that stuff. Maybe I'll mention it at the end. But this whole early impressions is on that first 6.5 hours of gameplay, that first section. So onto the non-spoiler stuff. I really won't be showing like anything. So, but if you're still concerned, you can just like minimize the video and listen to the audio. I guess that's an option. So, first point, the game, it's freaking amazing. I don't understand how they pulled it off. I played Breath of the Wild when I was 9, I think. So you know, you can do the math. But I liked it back then. I didn't love it, and I think I was literally just too young to like appreciate the game. So I was pretty excited to actually be able to appreciate this new game. And I do. It's amazing. It's probably the best, at least single player game I've ever played. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and I'm like barely through it. It's crazy that other people have said this, but it really does make Breath of the Wild look like a tech demo. Like I don't think I can go back to Breath of the Wild. It's that big of a change. Overall, the census is, if you're hesitant on buying it, it's like, this is a once in a lifetime kind of, okay, it's not, but you're not gonna get games like this a lot often. It's better than a lot of AAA games. I know it's like, it's kind of expensive, but like I would cop it. Oh, and this is a bit of a different scenario. If you're waiting to buy it so that you could play it with, let's call them altercations on an emulator, I would wait a bit, because I've tried it, and it's better than I thought it'd be this early. But there are still a couple of visual bugs that personally make me want to avoid playing it on an emulator, so I would just kind of stick to the Switch. The Switch, it's not bad. It's really not so bad. And that's the end of the not spoiler section. I literally cannot really go into stuff without it at least being a little bit of a spoiler. So, on to the spoiler section. Again, it's your choice if you want to watch it, if you just don't want to watch the video, or if you want to minimize it and only listen to the audio, because I will be showing gameplay from that first tutorial section. The way I recorded my thoughts is, as I was playing the game, I kind of just recorded a big bullet list of stuff on the game, so I'm just going to go through each bullet list and I'll just comment about it. Overall, the opening to the game, which I was really excited to see, it's crazy. It's actually amazing. Like, I'm going to be showing footage, but the first like walk down the stairs as the music slowly starts to swell and that feeling of like urgency, I don't know, I love that feeling. The whole opening is crazy. And when you actually encounter, I assume that's Ganon, the Demon King. I don't know at this point, but I assume so. They have in my opinion, a pretty good explanation of losing HP, especially later where you encounter more of this stuff, and it kind of has the same effect, so I do think this is a good way of showing the loss of HP and stamina. I don't know about stamina, but HP at least. I mean, they had to delete your health some way. And also, the whole pre-rendered cinematic, I didn't expect such a thing. Like this, the Breath of the Wild compared to this, it feels like you're comparing like a $10 pizza to like a 3 Michelin star full course meal. It's actually crazy though. Like, hey, look at this. I've even been practicing my Ganon impression.
Rauru placed his faith in you. And that was all you could do.
But yeah, that opening of you falling, in my opinion, hits harder than the Breath of the Wild opening. It's just the score, the visual, it's just better in my opinion. I can't explain how I felt when I first saw that. It was truly magical. This entire opening plays out exactly how I wanted it to in my head, and I can't be any more thankful. Like it's actually so good. And then when you finally land on the island, it feels very similar to Breath of the Wild, but still super different. It gives you it gave me a very uncanny valley feel. Now moving on a little bit, Rauru, my guy, he's got some pretty cool character design. I have here in my notes written that he's a pretty cute guy. I don't know why I wrote that down. But I thought his introduction of his character was pretty funny. It just says, source of the right arm. Like, that's his only importance. And I also kind of noticed that I feel like the voice acting in this game is a lot better than Breath of the Wild. And Breath of the Wild is very generic, but in this game, I don't know, Rauru sounds cool. McCree as Ganon goes pretty crazy. The whole, like, reimagining of this Sky Island is a reimagining of the Great Plateau in my mind. And in my opinion, it's better. It's more diverse. I just found it more fun. Like, you got the cold section, you got the shrines at, like, each corner. You know, it teaches you all the basic mechanics, and it does a really great job, in my opinion. And here we move on to my first complaint. The resolution is horrific, or I thought it was horrific, because I looked at it and I'm like, wow, this looks bad. But it turns out I just had the TV setting and the Switch settings to be 720p, so that's kind of my bad. It's fine for the most part. It's not really truly 1080p because they can't have it run because the Switch just can't run it. But it's really not that bad. I just was an idiot and I had it at 720p. Next thing I wrote down, the game has a more of a fantasy, like, kind of magic tone rather than tech. Now, there is still a lot of emphasis on, like, the tech, but at this point, the tech it's become magic. They even referred to, like, your little battery meter as your magic meter, but they just made it a battery so that people would understand it. And, you know, I thought I would mind that, but I really don't. I kind of like the fantasy tone. I feel like it definitely fits this game. Also, I know I'm kind of jumping around. I kind of can't not jump around, but the loading screens go crazy in this game. They actually show you where you are, and I love that. Oh yeah, and the music at this point, I didn't really comment about that, but in that opening, that weird sounding synth, I love that synth. I don't know why. It just sounds so cool, and especially later, when I'll go more into the shrines, the synth they have there, I don't understand. It makes me feel things I've never felt before, that synth. I guess we should go into shrines. They look great. I think they have a really cool atmosphere. They feel very different from the Breath of the Wild shrines. I feel like they have a weaker visual identity. It's a lot more muted, it's a lot more subtle, but I like it more. I don't know why. I like the music a lot more. It got so tiring. Maybe I'm just tired of the Breath of the Wild shrines, but these are just so much better in my opinion. And then this leads on to the abilities. The first one you get, Ultra Hand, really cool in my opinion. You can literally just do anything. And just overall, I feel like the abilities are much more front and center in this game, which I really don't mind. In Breath of the Wild, even like the most useful ability being, I think, Stasis. It's like you use it every couple of minutes, but here there's so much, you know, you always use them. You're always being like, oh, what can I do with this ability? Just overall, they play a much more prominent role. The next thing I have here is that the controls are intuitive. The rotation of Ultra Hand's a little weird, but you get used to it. It's good. Breath of the Wild controls were good. This is good. And also, in terms of quality of life, this is kind of with controls. But the GUI, oh my goodness, the inventory. It's actually a functioning inventory system, and that's crazy. There's so many quality of life things. Like you got like the weapon icons, if it's a one-handed weapon, two-handed weapon, a spear, things like that. I love that because it can be kind of confusing sometimes. Then you got like the chest replacement thing where you don't have to close it, then throw your item, then open it again. You can now just drop it. It's great. And like I said, just overall, the inventory is so much better, and it really makes, just especially for this game, I think it was really needed. And here, because of Ultra Hand, we move on to the next complaint. It's pretty laggy. Obviously, the game runs at 30 FPS, which is not ideal, especially since I'm a hardcore PC gamer, and if my games are running at 300 FPS, I'm going to break a neck. But every time you open it, it chugs a little bit. I don't know why I felt like this Great Sky Island was worse than on the surface. I feel like the surface itself is just more optimized for some reason. Don't know why, I really don't know, but it was pretty laggy on the island here. But the more you play the game, the more you get used to it. And at this point, at like 15 hours of gameplay, it doesn't faze me, the FPS drops at all. But, you know, these FPS drops are still a problem to some people, and it's a reason why I understand that you would want to play your game with altercations on an emulator. I also really love this game's emphasis on freedom. You can really do anything, especially with Ultra Hand. Like in the first shrine, you're meant to make this like carriage down this pipe, and it gives you the example. And it's like, hey, make this, and it gives you the materials to do that. I said, no. I didn't want to do that, and then I saw that the example was way up in the sky, so I said, how the frick do I make a bridge to climb up there and grab the example? And I did, and look, I have a really bad picture taken on my phone, but look at this, I went up and I grabbed the example, and it worked, and I felt great, even though it took me like 20 minutes to do. I would rather do that than just do what the game wanted me to do. And also, just the environments are much better, in my opinion. They're just a lot more interesting. Like the Great Plateau, it's got the Temple of Time, that's pretty cool. It's got some shrines that are pretty cool, and then it's got trees, and more trees, and a river, and more tree. But the Great Sky Islands, they have, it's not even ruins. I guess it is kind of ruins, but they have all the constructs are cool. The constructs are so cool. They're just cool enemies. They have all this stuff around, these flying blocks and whatever. They're cool. It's just cool to move around. The environments are so much more interesting. The fact that you're up here in the sky and the sun like blinds you whenever it's the afternoon, it's so much crazier. And especially what helps with the environments is the sound engine. They kind of highlighted this when they talked about the interview. They had an interview before the game came out. The sound engine, they like completely revamped it, and it's a lot easier to tell like where sounds are coming from, and it's just a lot more realistic. So you can really feel the difference of the sound engine if you're trying to pay attention in this first main area. Next thing I wrote down is that, it's just a weird observation, you get a lot of arrows in this game. Because when I remember playing Breath of the Wild, I struggled to get arrows a lot, and I constantly would need to go to literally every town possible to just buy up their entire stock of arrows, and it was expensive. I was kind of annoyed because arrows they're just useful. But at this point, I easily got like 100 in the island, and at this point, I've never run out of arrows. And I know why. It's because in this game, there's just one type of arrow. There's the arrow. But with Fuse, you can fuse a bunch of different things to the arrow, making it a lot more useful, and that makes the developers, I guess, want to give you a lot more of it. And speaking of Fuse, Fuse is cool. I like Fuse. I think the Fuse Shrine is probably the best shrine on the Great Sky Island. I don't know. It's cool. Actually, the rewind time might be a little better. I'll go into that. It's just cool that you can. There's so many different combinations of everything. Even now, I'm still discovering things, and it's like every time I play the game, I'm like, huh, I'm gonna use that because that's really helpful. I really like that Fuse lets you make different weapons with a different purpose for different scenarios. Like you can have your rock bashing weapon, your axe weapon, your high damage dealing weapon. You got your whacker that makes enemies just fall over. And it's at this point after you do this shrine that you're introduced to caves. Woo! We've all wanted caves for years now, and they put them in, and they're great. They're very cool. What the frick is up with the bullfrog? I still don't know what's up with them, but I like killing them, I guess. Don't take that out of context. And the Ultra Hand and Fuse now especially really push the limits of the chemistry and physics engine, and they're great. It's the same engine, but everything interacts great. I've had no problems with it. And also, another thing, Fuse lets you use shields as weapons. I love that so much because a lot of the times I had problems with the two-handed weapons because you can't have a shield out. You either have a shield or you have no shield. And I like shields. So a lot of the time I'd just be like, okay, I only want to use one-handed weapons so I can also get that shield. But now the shield is a weapon. Like in the Fuse Shrine, you fuse like a thorn bush to the shield. It does so much damage. It's great. And now I'm gonna move forward a little bit, like 30 minutes of gameplay or so. You get to this arena, very arena-looking thing, and you fight the Flux Construct #1. I really like this mini boss. I didn't understand how to fight it at first, but when I did, it was a very fun and well-designed boss. I've always loved fighting this boss, and whenever I see the chance to fight this boss, I go because it gets you good stuff. It's a fun boss. After this, you go through the cold area. Cold area, it's, pretty standard cold area. I like how they make you climb the ice things by making the tree branch bridge. I didn't think of that originally, but it works great. It's fun. Then you get Ascend from the shrine. It's cool, I guess. It's, in my opinion, the worst and least useful ability. It's helpful, I guess, but you really don't need to use it too much, and I feel like it's a little awkward. It's alright though, they can't all be winners. Still think it's more useful than Cryonis. And then, after that, you move on to Rewind, which is the best ability. Don't even argue with me. I didn't think I'd like it so much, but I don't know why something in my brain goes, oh, I can rewind time. That's pretty cool. Like, especially, this is a little later when you're actually in Hyrule, but there's these like falling rocks, and if you stand on them, you can use rewind, and then you go back up, and then you get what's on the island. It's so cool. You can do so much with it. I love it so much. And especially the shrine for it. Oh man, that shrine. That, like, when you ride like that raft up and you like feel the backwards bounces. I don't know, it's really cool. Overall, all the abilities have a really cool chemistry, and I really observed this when I was fighting the Flux Construct. They just work well. Like, all of them work really well together. Like, I have here in my notes, I was only using Master Hand, and only when I combined the abilities did it work. I don't remember what this was. Probably the Flux Constructs fight, if I'd have to guess, but I don't remember. And this now we're moving on to the end of the whole Great Sky Island section. The Link, the Zelda, the Dragon cutscene before you drop into Hyrule, that whole cutscene's really cool. Especially, I want to give a props to that transition they did. How did they do that? I don't understand. This blew my mind when I saw it. I thought they were just gonna restore the Master Sword, but I don't know how they linked the future and like 10,000 years in the past so well. It was a great transition. And then diving's cool. I saw diving. It looked kind of awkward, but it feels really fun. Especially later in the game where you get to do it more and more. It's just a great feeling to be able to dive everywhere. And finally, when you land, that feeling is great. I don't know, I guess it's nostalgia, but just landing in Hyrule and being in Hyrule again is really cool. And also, you start in Central Hyrule, which is weird and cool. I think this game had a great use of Hyrule Field. Like in Breath of the Wild, it was a big open field. But here, it has things, and it has enemies, and it has Lookout Landing. And I love Lookout Landing. I just think that the Hyrule in this game is a lot better overall. The music as well, no complaints. I've already tried to listen to the music. I love it. Just if you try to do it, heads up, because I've already kind of been spoiled, because they're gonna give you like the blank blank theme, and I've already been spoiled on some stuff. Kind of sad about it, but the music's really good. That's basically the end of my notes, but at the time of recording this, like 16 hours of gameplay, I've explored this region of the map, and I'm heading into what Zora's Domain was last game, so I'm pretty excited for that. That's it. I don't know, that's the end of my notes. I think that's it. But yeah, I think that's the end of my early impressions. Thank you for waiting like a week, even though I said it would be last week. And thanks for just listening to me gush about the game for, I really don't know how long this will be. But yeah, I don't know. Game's great. I've been loving it. I will continue to play it. Oh, actually, let me check what my playtime is right now. It didn't let me because it was too early, but I think it might be time now. Okay, never mind. I can't check. It has to be 10 days, not 7. But no, I'd say I probably have 15 to 20, probably 16, 17 hours in this game. It's great. I'm looking forward to it, and I don't even feel like I've completed a quarter of the game, and I'm just so excited to explore the other regions. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Buy the game, or I'll set you aflame. See you guys next time.